It is Hearts Standard, and I am Craig Cairns. Today we are getting together. It's been a few days since I've seen you, Joel. How are you doing? First
Yeah,
of all,
good. Yeah, good yourself. I was going to say that this is an episode we probably would have done on Friday, but I wasn't feeling very well, so that had to be pushed.
yeah, it's also been a wee bit of a busy time, and I think we had the weekend off there because, for obvious reasons. The Hearts game is tonight, and so we just we took that opportunity to kind of have the weekend, which I'm sure a lot of Hearts fans did as well. Ready for the inconvenience of a Monday night trip to Paisley. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today. We are also going to have a look back to one of the reasons why, what I meant to say there, one of the reasons why we took a wee bit of a weekend there is we had a live event on Thursday night with Neil Critchley. So we will talk about a few things that we kind of took away from that, and then we'll see if there's any other business at the end. So, how did you enjoy your weekend, Joe?
It was really good. I mean, we spent time together. We went up to Montrose to watch Callum Sandilands in action for Montrose against Allo Athletic, and we had got a bit of hospitality as well. Montrose is always, I would recommend it to anyone if you're looking for a nice away day, and I would recommend it. I drove up because I wasn't feeling great, but the train up from Edinburgh. So many good pubs, and the ground itself is an excellent wee lower league ground, and everyone is very, very nice and welcoming. So yeah, it was fairly enjoyable, and then barely left the couch on Sunday. So yeah, it was lovely. And then I added to it, turned on the Rangers game for the last 5 minutes, and then see them miss a penalty. Even better. It was great. It was great.
I watched the lunchtime game because there was a wee bit more in that, I think. And for instance, like I didn't watch, it was a wee bit different, but I didn't watch Rangers Fraserburgh in the last round. There's just like some of those games, and I barely watched the Rangers live games that are Rangers and Celtic live games, league games that are on, because it's just the same fixtures over and over. It's just whoever they're playing away, we just get shoved down our throats. So I don't even watch them. So I have to hold up my hands here. Thought it was a foregone conclusion that one way or another Rangers would win, so I didn't even bother sticking that game on, and I've missed one of the biggest upsets in recent times. And at the risk of setting us up for a fall, Michael Bannerman's getting on it and just saying Rangers with a laughing emoji. But yes, we still have it to do. And it's actually, I don't know, maybe it'll bring us on to a nice kind of segue into the Scottish Cup. One of my thoughts ahead of this evening is that I'm not sure I like this Rangers exit before. I wish we had played on Saturday now, because there just feels like a lot more in it. And it's the same for St Mirren. It's the same for St Mirren. But yes, there's a lot more pressure to win this now, because teams now know that there's more of a chance of a space in the final up for grabs, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know it was 1-0 until the 85th minute, and then I checked out WhatsApp chat or FotMob, and I was scrambling for the remote to put it on. It's like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. But then as soon as it went, it's exactly what Chris White said. I was really enjoying it. But then at the same time, straight away was thinking, well, that's St Mirren 2, Heart Midlothian 0 written all over it. That's just the natural thought of a Hearts fan, I would imagine. I imagine I'm not the only one that kind of felt that as well.
And we're on a roll here with the comments. Just Malachi Boateng from Jamog here putting Liverpool out the FA Cup in this week at Plymouth. Not only that, the ex-Cercle Bruges manager was in charge for Plymouth. And Nikola Katic, I saw swearing on ITV during his interview afterwards. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Hearts' fifth round tie in the Scottish Cup tonight against St Mirren and Paisley. How are you kind of feeling in general about it, Joe?
Until the kind of the aftermath of, or the laughter died down yesterday afternoon or into the evening, I was pretty confident, and then I was like, oh no, we're the last one up, and Rangers have just exited, and Hibs are already through, Aberdeen are already through. So yeah, I was positive, and then there was the realization that this was a great opportunity for Hearts, and I fluctuate between being uber positive about Hearts to being a real fatalist thinking that the worst is going to happen. So I think if you just take away my insecurities around Hearts and just in general, that I think there's a lot to be confident about going to St Mirren. St Mirren are a team that I've probably not seen. One of the teams I've seen the least this season, I think, because we played them very close together at the start of the season, so I've not really seen too much of them. And I know they've had a wee bit of a squad. Squad's evolved just because of incidents that's happened throughout the season, and just with players leaving last summer. So just looking at from a Hearts perspective, that the team is growing in confidence. They're looking like a more coherent outfit, and then you just add in like the Cabangu and Shanklin. That's really exciting. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, while also being very wary of what's happened over the weekend.
Yes, I even like putting aside the results from the weekend there, my thoughts kind of going in I've been unsure about it because, yes, form-wise, Hearts should go into this with a lot of confidence. But I think St Mirren's better results recently have come against better opposition.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, the two games you mentioned, they're two very different games. I know one was a different manager, but St Mirren were very poor at Tynecastle. They were on a poor run at that point. Then they've been quite like Motherwell, they've had a team that have kind of had swings in form, kind of wild swings in form. And I don't know, just with it being on a Monday night and all that kind of thing, they've got home advantage. I do think it's a difficult one to call. And Hearts aren't going to be unbeaten between now and the end of the season. They're on a very good run, and the defeat's surely going to come at some point. But if you're looking at form, Hearts have just got a lot to be confident about, as you say.
Yeah, and I feel that going back to the Cabangu and Shanklin partnership, there's sometimes like with Shanklin, do you go up against back three? It's at times, I think he mentioned it at the end of, I think he did open goal at some point towards the end of last season, and he was talking about they were just asking about who's like the toughest to come up against, and he kind of just mentioned the St Mirren backline because it can feel impenetrable at times. But I just think with the new dynamic where Shanklin's, he's not going to have to engage with the St Mirren backline, which as much, and it kind of Cabangu can stretch it. I just think that gives me a hell of a lot of encouragement. And I don't want to put like too much into the Dundee game, but watching it back, there was a lot to like him. It just has a nice balance. And then on the flip side, I think the one where I'm most intrigued, where if we can get a handle on their strikers, so I'm guessing potentially Olasanya and Mandron, if you can have a handle on them, that goes a long way. Olasanya's caused us issues before. I think Mandron's not as difficult to deal with as someone like Curtis Main has been in the past, or Ayunga, whereas and if you can get that balance right and win those battles, well, stopping the threat of Olasanya on the counter, because like you said, we're going to have a lot of the ball, and then St Mirren will be direct and they will look to find Olasanya running into space. So it's just getting that balance on the kind of transition when we lose the ball, and if we can just kind of stop or prevent St Mirren from breaking into those dangerous areas, then that's massive.
Yeah, I think part of it is going to depend on which Olasanya turns up, because he can be quite hot and cold. I know he's been very good for them this season, and he's progressed season on season for them as well. He's a guy that's kind of on the up, and Robinson's managed them really well. But there has been games where he's been absolutely atrocious this season as well. So I do think it depends on which Olasanya turns up for St Mirren. But a lot of it comes down to which Hearts turn up. And I totally agree with you about Dundee there. I think that both that game has shown that Hearts have more dimensions to their attacking play just through the addition of Cabangu. You saw that for a number of the goals. But at the same time, St Mirren will have taken a lot of lessons from that. And to kind of pick up on the Shankland thing that you said, again, only one match, but very interested to see how that goes going forward, because part of the issue earlier in the season was nobody relieving the burden on Shankland in a number of different ways. And him being the only number 9 pretty much that was used for that first 12 games of the season or whatever it was, nobody to kind of give him a shot off the bench, or nobody to even like we talked about Ginnelly in the past, nobody really doing that for him and all that kind of stuff. And you saw the difference against Dundee, that he became instantly a bit. Could also just be because he was playing against Dundee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he loves a game against Dundee.
And their defences, I can't remember the last time they had a competent, or just had last time they were in the Premiership and you thought, Dundee's defence is quite strong.
Solid Dundee.
Yeah, they're very rarely a solid Dundee. I suppose just bringing in, I think it's Michael asking here, do you reckon Khartoum might start?
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. It totally depends. We don't know how close Khartoum and Steinwender are to starting matches. I mean, we knew that they weren't. We knew that we're on a pre-season as such, but not like a full pre-season, like an abridged one. So, and we've had a fair few weeks since they've been in now, so they may be off that program. So then it could be a case of who's training or whether he wants to take that risk in a game like this. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say the same for Steinwender or Khartoum. I'm not sure. I think with Khartoum, I think we'll probably see him at some point. I just don't know whether it will be from the start.
I think looking at the pair of them, and when they came in, I penciled in the St Mirren game as the first time we'd see them. I didn't think we'd see them against Kilmarnock, which then they were on. They having just been signed, and then I think it was only the Dundee game where, if it wasn't for Halkett's injury, I don't think Steinwender would have been part of this. I would be surprised if he was on this on the substitute bench. Whereas I think they'll be. I think this is now they'll be ready to be involved properly. I don't think. I'm not sure either will start. I don't know. Actually, I don't think Khartoum will start. I think we'll see him off the bench. I think he'll be part of the squad, and if we see him, he'll be off the bench. And then Steinwender, some interesting one, because Nielsen did so well against Dundee, and he did a lot of things that you can expect from Nielsen. Really good on the ball. Kind of really athletic, but then there was also he seemed to just be, you know what, I'm just going to be a no-nonsense centre back. He didn't take chances. He kind of played the way he was facing. There was one point in the first half where he could have went back to Gordon, but he didn't. He just cleared it out of the pitch, just played safe, and then his confidence grew. So, I mean, after his performance, it'd probably be harsh to drop him, but at the same time, Steinwender come in, and Jagli probably come in for a game like this where he is quick against Olasanya, and he's also aggressive and physical. So, yeah, I think that's the more interesting one out of the two. I think Khartoum we'll probably see him off the bench, whereas I think it'll feeling 50-50 around Steinwender.
It's a difficult one for Critchley because it's got, regardless of which one he chooses, it's got the potential to go wrong, and then there's always going to be, because it's kind of like a sort of 50-50 decision at this point, like, if it goes wrong, then you know what I mean. It'll be easy for fans to kind of point the finger at him that, you should have played the other one. Nielsen was doing well. Why did you drop him? Or Steinwender's clearly better than Nielsen. Why are you not getting him into the team? So it feels like it's got the potential to be a bit of a lose-lose for him. But if Hearts get through in the tie, nobody talks about that, I guess. But yeah, Khartoum, I'd like to think we'll see him at some point. It does depend on, if he doesn't start, it then does depend on how the game goes a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even besides a red card or something along those lines happening, it still just could not be tactically set up for him to be put in or whatever it is. So I'd like to think we'll see him, but not sure if it will be from the start. I mean, he's quite within his rights to go with the same team again after.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, Graham from the Gorgie Boys podcast says we'd be harsh to drop anyone tonight after a 6-0 win, so I'd imagine we keep the same same tonight. Really difficult game and can see this going to extra time. I can also go to see extra time, and that's the last thing any of us want, is it going to extra time. And I suppose that's the other factor is I think you're probably only looking at the two decisions. Was that, would you say, whether it was going to be Steinwender and Nielsen or Khartoum and Musa? You can argue maybe Taylor or Forrester, or potentially switching it up in midfield. But again, I'd probably be content with going with Devlin and Benny, as long as they play like they did against Dundee, where we almost kind of bypassed the midfield at times. We played a lot of long balls and then kind of picked up on a lot of second balls. Whereas my issue with Devlin and Benny, when they play together and we have lots of the ball, is it can be a bit slow. That's my only concern with this game, is with Hearts expected to have loads of the ball, that we end up just being a bit too slow with it, and it plays into St Mirren's hands. They get guys behind the ball, win the ball, and then just go long.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think St Mirren, I mean, I know they do play like that pretty aggressively when they're away from home, but I think they still take a bit more of the ball when they're at home as well. But no, I agree with you. But I think the way that Hearts set up kind of compensates for that. I think that's built into the to the system. I think it's about them. It's about them getting the ball to other players. Now, I know you can argue the merits of how they do it. Sometimes we spoke a few weeks ago about how times where you'd like them where they take two passes to get it out wide or whatever. You'd like to see that done in one. Sometimes you can see the pass and it's not executed or something. So yes, I still do think there are things there. But then there's also the option of Grant starting in there. Again, I'm not saying that Hearts should be changing it up. I think I'd be perfectly happy for them to go with the same 11 again, because I think they also got better as they went on in that match. As you referenced, Nielsen playing it safe early on, but there was... Like Musa's a good example. Musa struggled a little bit on the ball, took a few too many touches, didn't play the pass he should have. Head didn't go down. He got better and better. In the second half, he was actually a big part. I know he got his goals pretty much like pouncing on another goalkeeping error, but he linked well with Forrester down that side. More and more space opened up on that right-hand side, whether that's partly because Dundee were focusing on not getting absolutely torn apart down that other side. I don't know, but they played a couple of 1-2s with each other, Forrester and Musa, and got better. So I'm not sure if I'd change anything, but to speak to the problem you're talking about there, if Critchley is worried about that in certain matches, he does have, and as somebody else has kind of mentioned, I mean, not quite the question he's asking, but Ian McCallum is the Hoff close to starting. He's also said Taylor or Forrester. But he's another guy that you think could maybe come in one of those positions and be a bit more of an attacking option than either Benny or Devlin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms to answer the question, I always want to call him Hoffenheim. The Hoff is available. Yeah, I think he's now at a point where he is ready to play, whether that's from the start or off the bench. Craig wrote up his interview from when we spoke to him on Thursday, and he kind of explained, and it was quite interesting that why he's taken so long to come back. Both of there's been 3 setbacks, and then with the most recent setback, they're just like, right, let's just be as patient as possible. And so yeah, I think he's up and running. Taylor or Forrester, I would be going probably. I'm really looking forward to seeing Taylor, but probably stick with Forrester after Saturday, and then potentially just save Taylor for Tynecastle against Rangers next Sunday, and just do the same you did last time, and you're fine.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to see Steinwender come in. Other than that, I'm not sure. Maybe should be making any other changes. But as I say, that seems like a difficult one to call. Only Critchley will know what he's doing with that. So anything else to add about tonight's game before we move on to last live event?
Just two things I was going to say. Away up in Gorgie's suggestion of we beat St Mirren, draw Aberdeen at home, Livingston get Queen's Park, we get Livingston at Hampden straight to the final. That sounds ideal. And this one, I'll throw this to you, Craig. Liam Carlian asks, morning gents, on the way to Prague with my Welsh girlfriend for our birthday, how do I break the news to her that I'll be putting the trip on standstill whilst we watch the GITs tonight?
Oh my God, I don't know. I mean, I'm 42 years old and unmarried, so I'm not sure I'm the right person to be asking here. I would just be honest, but you have to compensate for it. You have to before or after it, you have to have something planned to make up for it. Bearing in mind, I mean, I'm in a relationship just now, but yes, I'm not married or anything. I think Joel's had a wee bit more success than me.
I would, well, not my suggestion was going to be the complete opposite. Is it might leave me single. Was like I would take her to Hooters because I believe there's a Hooters in Prague, and then she'll be raging as it is. So then you just take her to the pub, and it can't get any worse.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Maybe even bought a T-shirt from there, but yeah, we won't go down that.
But I was wondering a while about your relationship advice. I was just wondering how you're in a relationship right now.
No, I just a bit of sightseeing, go and get a lovely meal, and then just go. Let's go and find a nice place to have a drink. Oh, there's a Hearts game. Let's just stay here and have a couple of drinks. Sorted, easy.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Let's now that we've potentially ended our relationship, let's move on to last week's live event. First of all, thank you to everybody that was involved, to our colleagues who put a lot of work into organising it, the staff at Tynecastle that worked it on the day, Neil Critchley for giving up his time, the subscribers for coming along and making it such a well-attended event, and of course to Big Hearts who continue to do God's work at the club. Really. Have I missed anybody there, Joel? I think that was fairly comprehensive.
Yep. Staff.
Yeah.
Staff, Big Hearts, people that attended, Neil Critchley. I think covered all bases.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. It was a really good event. If anybody that was there thinks differently, please, we'd be interested in the feedback, like genuinely interested in any kind of constructive criticism that people have. But it seemed to be well received by everyone, and it was a really nice night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and it was ideally probably would have kind of split it up a bit more, but just the way timings worked out, we just went, and I think we basically had Critchley for an hour, and I thought it was really good. I thought he came across really well. Everyone I spoke to, whether it was on social media or afterwards or in the pub, seemed to really enjoy it, and thought that Critchley was really good and was really interesting, which I did as well. I think we covered a lot of bases as well, and people were able to put questions to him as well. So yeah, I think it was a success, especially when it's like we're not the most polished. It's always quite informal when we do this, and but yeah, I think it went. I think it came across. I think he enjoyed it as well. He seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, and he got involved. He wasn't like robotic. He didn't like slip into media speak. He played the event. That's not the best way to put it. Put it in football terms, but he played the event the way it should be. It was like he was funny at times. He was insightful, and I suppose what's good about those kind of events that's different from when we speak to Critchley every few days, but what's different about this is it's kind of like more like a sort of informal, let's sit down and we got to kind of ask him and go into depth about things that we always want to ask in these press conferences, but just with the time constraint and everything having to be transcribed and all that kind of stuff, and like not wanting to bore everybody else in the room, you kind of have to sort of pick and choose when you go into certain things. But this gave us a good space to kind of cover a broad range of topics. And what were any kind of like interesting things that you picked up from it?
Yeah, so I suspected. I thought the stuff that he would be most insightful for is asking him to talk about his kind of principles, like the way he trains. I thought when he kind of gave us a insight into like how they organize training and stuff, when he talks about specifics within how the team sets up or how the team plays. I always thought he was going to be most open about that, and you could see that. I think it was really he's really passionate about how he coaches, etc., etc. And I thought those aspects were really interesting. I suppose the most interesting was, for me, was the way he talked about the wide men. We asked him about, because Barry Mackay was talked about, Oda, of course, and then asking him about Khartoum and Blair Spittle. And his answer around how he wants his wide men I thought was really interesting, in that he wants his wide men to play on the opposite side. So we've seen it with Blair Spittle. He wants Blair Spittle right-footed, wants him to play on the left. And then explained it because when he comes infield, then he is on his stronger foot, so he can play forward. Whereas at times where if you've got a right footer playing on the right, cuts in, and then the easiest thing for them to do is to go sideways or go back the ways, just because it's natural on the right hand side. Whereas again, I think you mentioned that we were talking about on Saturday. He mentioned Spittle coming in, and then that pass in Dundee where he was able to just fire it into Shankland. Shankland touches and scores. So I think that gives us an idea going forward of what we can expect, and why Khartoum is going to be brought in and to play in that situation. And then when wingers come in, there's going to be guys who, even if they're more kind of traditional wingers, they'll probably still play on the opposite side and be able to go either side.
And I quite liked when I asked the question. It was quite late on. I asked them about if you had a blank slate, what would the Neil Critchley team look like? And the first thing he said was it's not about shape for him. It's about principles. So he's happy to either tailor his formation to the players that he's got available at any given time, or to the opponents, or whatever it is. But it's more that he instills certain principles and certain ways of playing. And we've kind of seen that. A lot of that is, and it fits into what, I mean, a lot of the things that you've been talking about pre-Neil Critchley, before we knew who Neil Critchley was, a lot of these things are about being in the opposition's face, controlling the game, being the dominant team, flying out the blocks, those kind of things. And those are the kind of things that he's either come into the club that those are his set in stone principles, or he's averse to them and he understood the identity of the club and sort of tried to accentuate those principles, put that kind of stamp on his team. If that kind of made any sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Because that's absolutely, because we kind of touched on that, and we asked him about the identity and what he wants to see. And I made the point that, because I think he wants more control. That's what he says. He's still wanting the team to have more possession. And I asked him about, I was like, at the same time, I feel that our best performances this season, or the most enjoyable Hearts have been to watch this season, is when Hearts don't dominate possession. Is that when maybe maybe it's 50-50 or 55-45 or 45-55. It's around that where there's a much more even share of possession. That's where I think Hearts are being just a bit more enjoyable, where it's not been more chaotic, but it's when we've had the ball, it's been with purpose. Whereas I reckon I speak for a lot of fans over the kind of last 18 months or so, is that we've had success, but there's times where the team have had 60-65% possession, and it's not really been enjoyable to watch, and you can get frustrated. And that's what Critchley said, is that he spoke about, he understands the frustration when there is a lot of possession and you go backwards and sideways, but he wants the balance where you're passing for a reason. So you're going back for a reason, or you're going sideways for a reason, rather than you're doing that just because it's easy. So he is wanting to have more control, but that control be more purposeful. So I still think that's going to be a work in progress, and can be difficult to do. But the better the better players that arrive, the easier that'll be. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that evolves. And I think as Liam says here, friend his Bobby spoke to Critchley afterwards and said to him, "Thanks so much for your efforts to turn it around." And Critchley replied, "We're just getting started. Exactly what you're wanting. Hearts are back." So yeah, that's one of the big things. And he's not even just said that on Thursday. He said that a few times, where there's still a lot to do with this team and with what he wants. So it's kind of the building blocks are just getting put in place.
I thought he handled that bit really well when he was talking about the passing backwards. They kind of turned to the crowd and he's like, I feel your guys' frustration whenever the ball goes back, but I want my team," basically saying that what you've said, that when they go back, he wants it to be with a purpose. Now, there's going to be times when the team's too timid and it's going back against his wishes, but generally, he wants the team that when they are going backwards. And listen, that's been a huge difference between pre-Neil Critchley and post-Neil Critchley. How much they've reduced the amount of ponderous play between centre backs and across a back four. It's just not been happening nearly as much. We said that even after the first couple of games. Was it the St Mirren game? I can't remember. I mean, I know that was his first match. Actually, I think it might have been after the second match, Omonia Nicosia at home. And the first two matches, we were saying in the video after that, just the amount of times Hearts players were available to take a pass from defenders. There was like much more of that going on. So yes, we have seen a lot less ponderous play under Critchley, I suppose, is the overarching point I'm making.
Yeah, and I suppose one thing I will say is that once, so we've recorded the audio. So someone asked on, I think it was social media, if a video was going up, but just with that, ideally that would have been great. But I just feel if you're recording it, then it might make everything a bit more safe. Whereas, so we've got audio which
less exclusive as well, and also I'm not sure we have the setup for it, to be honest. You'd probably need more than one camera. We'd need an extra person doing the camera work. I suppose one person could do the interview and one person could do the camera. But the videos that we do, it's all very much amateur. It's phones and then the odd GoPro and tripods and things. We're not like STV rolling up with cameras and stuff. So we're kind of limited in the setup as well. So there's a few reasons why we kind of don't film it and put it out, I guess.
But what we'll do is we've got audio, so we're going to over the next week kind of spice up and take out all the most interesting aspects, like him talking about why he brings everyone back for set pieces, why he plays inverted wingers, etc., etc. A wee bit of insight behind of how he works on a daily basis, how the team work on a daily basis, the meetings, the work that goes into preparing for not just games but training as well. We'll put out different articles so everyone who's a subscriber who wasn't able to attend will be able to read and get to see Critchley's viewpoint. So I don't know if there's anything else that jumped out with you.
No, just a couple of things that you were to add to there, like his relationship with Mike Garrity. I think that might be something that we put in as well. Somebody asked the question, which was a fair question. It was a fair question about him being quiet, because in a sense he has been, but he's not done any interviews or anything like that. Hearts fans haven't heard from Mike Garrity, and that's what the question meant. But Neil Critchley took that as an opportunity to say that he's very much not quiet. He's a Scouser. Have you ever met Scousers, basically? Yeah. And he talked about the trust he has in him. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. The thing that I think we should finish on is, which was a lovely sort of natural wrapping up point. I think what had happened was, I think there was a guy trying to get your attention to ask a question and couldn't. He was kind of over your left side. I didn't even notice. And it was you that was taking the questions from the floor. And he must have been waiting for Critchley to get to the end of an answer and thought that he was, but Critchley was actually just taking breath and about to keep going. And he just stands up and he's like, right to Mr. Critchley. And talking about how, was it 5 Hearts managers have been written in immortality?
Yeah.
Winning the Scottish Cup. Are you going to be the next or something like that? And again, he handled it very, very well. He was kind of he made a few jokes for the rest of the audience and answered the guy's question. I spoke to the guy at the end. He was very, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was
like a natural wrapping up point after that.
It was a great question, because that's what people want. It's like, and I think that's he kind of allowed Critchley to kind of talk about how he's found the club, and just like how he understands it, and I think he does seem to get it. Which is, he does seem, as like Michael says, he's a genuine bloke, and Gorgie Boys podcast, Critchley comes as a really great person and want to succeed, like his interviews after games. Jim Og, absolutely great night. Critchley came across fantastically. A bit let down he isn't bringing Salah in the summer after someone asked about an Egyptian forward that was going to be out of contract. And yeah, Jim adds, there wasn't a question he didn't answer. He never resorted to empty platitudes. Seems to have gone out his way to learn about the club and the history. That's the point I was trying to make with his answer at the last one. So yeah, it was it came across really well, and hopefully we'll get content out over the next week or so. So everyone who wasn't able to attend will be able to read what he had to say.
Let's just finish off by, we're going to talk about Sandilands very quickly as well, since we both saw him at the weekend. But first of all, Macaulay Tait. I have watched 2 of his 3 matches. I didn't see his debut. Apparently had a wee bit of a tougher game there. He was played behind Rhys McAleer and Scott Pittman in the midfield 3. And then for the next 2 matches, Pittman's been out, I assume injured, and Jamie Brandon's coming alongside him. So Rhys McAleer's played in front, and he's played alongside another ex-Hearts player, Jamie Brandon, and that seems to have suited him a bit more from what I've seen. And to be honest, Joel, he's looked at points in the 2 games I've watched, Dunfermline and Falkirk, they've won both. He's looked a class above at times in that midfield. Does that kind of surprise you that he's gone in so quickly, hit the ground running so quickly? I think they were giving him man of the match. Livingston were giving him man of the match for that. Was it the most recent one, Dunfermline? Oh, I can't remember. But he's been singled out by the manager for praise after the last 2 matches as well, by David Martin.
So yeah, he's been singled out. So he was singled out. Was it after the? He was singled out after the Falkirk game, and then he had a great game against Dunfermline, and then he was singled out after the Cove Rangers game at the weekend, where Neil Critchley was watching. Garrett, Neil Critchley and Garrett were watching at
getting the games mixed up.
Yeah, in West Lothian, or at Ammonville. I'll just call it Ammonville. Can't remember what it's called now. They were watching on from the stands, and then David Martindale picked him out again. And so I'm not surprised he's gone in done well, but yeah, I'm probably surprised at the fact that he's gone in and just become such a key cog in the midfield, and the way that Martindale has spoken about him. Watched him against Dunfermline, and it was a bit of everything that's kind of you expect or hope to see from Tait. He was taking the ball at any opportunity, and he was moving it really well. It was at times he was reminding me of Benny in the way that he would get the ball and he would get closed down, but it was almost like he would tempt an opposition player towards him and then move it on quickly and then allowed Livingston to get going. But I think he's probably a wee bit more willing to go direct a wee bit more than Benny. Off the ball, he can get he is someone who covers a lot of ground, real mobile, gets stuck in, and the fact that I just think it's a perfect loan for him. And the fact that he's been singled out for praise by Martindale a couple of times, I think it's sort of really, really positive aspect that he's gone in there and under a demanding manager to a club who are in a position where they're essentially challenging on 3 fronts, that they've got a title challenge, they've got into the final now of the SPFL Trust Trophy, and into the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. It's just... I just generally don't think it could have gone any better for him at the moment, having played every game, having played a number of games in short period of time, and now has kind of almost won his basically a starting role there for you can see a foreseeable future, and getting minutes at such a at a club in such a situation is only going to be massive for him potentially coming back in the summer and trying to win his place in the squad.
So I think that Macaulay Tait is not your typical Livingston player as well. I think Livingston are clearly a little bit different this season, being a team competing at the top of the championship compared to a team scrapping it usually the bottom of the Premiership. So they will be a team that will be expected to have more of the ball and all those kind of things. But still, he's not your typical Livingston player, and I think it's quite impressive. As another aspect why I think he's kind of gone in, why it's so impressive that he's gone in and had such a good start there. And not only that, but from what I've seen as well, not just the penalty he wins against Falkirk, that is from a counter-attack. So you can kind of understand, but he shows great pace to get there. And that's such a pivotal moment, and that's like tightened up the top of that league. But against Dunfermline, sorry, I was getting mixed up. I was forgetting that I haven't seen the game Cove at the weekend, but he was singled out for praise after that. I've seen Falkirk and Dunfermline games that he's played in. And against Dunfermline, what struck me in that match was the amount of times that he was involved in play at the edge of the box and then sometimes in the box. Because again, just always assumed them to be a bit more of a player that does his work a bit further back.
The build-up,
yeah. And he's also great at picking up second balls as well. That's a quality that he has. He's got very, very good positioning and anticipation in that sense. Callum Sandilands, quickly before we finish, we got a glimpse of him at the weekend. It was an entertaining game. Montrose were fantastic in the first half. Some amazing football for League One level. I don't even mean that in a patronising way. I think Stuart Petrie said after the game it was some of the best football they've played this season in that first half. Craig Whiten central to most of it. Callum Sandilands had a pretty good half. It was a very tough second half overall for Montrose. They just didn't get going at all, and it was Alloa's half. But I think we saw there a microcosm of what a loan spell can be. There was everything that he has to deal with in a loan spell he dealt with over that 90 minutes, including getting taken off towards the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's, again, I think it's been a positive loan just because Montrose, we spoke about it on the way up, are a good club to go to because they have experience before of helping players develop. Lyle Cameron, for one, Dundee. So he's working under a really good part-time, one of the best part-time managers in the country, in Stuart Petrie. And it's just an interesting setup where he's got someone like Ross Campbell, who is a key figure at the Orion. And I think he's quite heavily involved in the tactical side of the game. But he's gone in there playing with a lot of experienced guys as well. We've got Sean Diller, Michael Gardine. And
does a lot of the in-game coaching as well.
He does. Yeah.
Ross Campbell to do a lot of the in-game coaching.
And with Sandilands, I think you saw a lot of good qualities, and you could see that he's being appreciated by his teammates and the crowd as well. I think that was something that stood out. But he was wanting to, again, like Tait, just wanting to get involved at all points. He was always offering for possession. Yeah. Couple of really nice passes around the box to set up a couple of opportunities, and then second half where he went deeper, and even though he's a young guy going in, he was looking to take on responsibility. But yeah, it's again way up to Cove on Tuesday or Wednesday, playing again. So yeah, it's I can only say positive things so far.
He had two lovely slipped through balls in the first half where he sort of delayed the pass and then perfectly timed this and just like perfectly weighted through balls. Made a couple of good runs in behind, and then I've not seen it back. He thought he was onside, but he's either cruelly been denied a goal or he has cruelly denied Craig Whiten a goal by tapping it in from an offside position. I'm not entirely sure which, but even then, Craig Whiten's kind of hooking it over players from the back post. Craig Whiten's probably just putting it into an area knowing that it could go in, it could be headed in. I don't think it was necessarily it wasn't like he's rounded the keeper and put it in and then Sandilands has tried to nick it at the end. So I've not watched it back. I'm sure the highlights are up there, but he reckoned he was onside, so he maybe has been cruelly denied a goal. But what I kind of liked about his performance was that I like his body shape. He's like always got his head up. He technically looks really good, and he seems like a confident lad as well. So yes, and as you say, Montrose does seem like a good place for young players to go and get a loan.
Yeah, and I think what we'll say is certainly the second half of the season, because Hearts got quite a few guys out on loan. We've got Bobby McCluckett, Stenny, Finlay Pollock's been at Rafe, and then the two goalkeepers, Stone and McFarlane, have been at Ayr and East Fife. That I think over the next couple of months we'll try and get around to see everyone and check in and get a chat with a few of them or their coaches. So that's certainly something that we'll be planning to do.
Somebody's got to come back a champion or something, surely.
I know, yeah, there'll be there's enough around it.
Stone, McFarlane, surely one of those has got to win a trophy.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. I'm not entirely sure of Steady. I've got the legs of some of the other teams in that league, but potentially McCluckey as well. Yeah. So let's see how all that pans out, and maybe who knows? There's a big one tonight, but Hearts themselves could be in with a shout of silverware, given Rangers have been knocked out. But as we said earlier, it does put more pressure on an expectation on clubs like Hearts now to do something in this competition. So we'll take it one game at a time. We'll see how we go. Any other business before we get?
I was going to add is that we won't be doing a show after the game tonight just because of timing. So Craig and I will be back tomorrow morning, early afternoon, to review tonight's game.
Yes, exactly, because it's going to be a late one in Paisley, and not only that, there's the chance of extra time, and then there's the cup draw as well. So, we're not going to be standing about in the cold doing a video. We will. Not that anybody. By the time I got it uploaded as well, not that anybody.
It'll be bad.
Exactly. I'll be driving home before I did it as well. So there's no point in us recording at the stadium. We will be back on here tomorrow live at some point, as Joe says, late morning, lunchtime, something along those lines. We'll aim for, maybe even early afternoon. But until then, please check everything out at heartstandard.co.uk. There's lots of stuff preview wise and otherwise. There's a really good interview with James Wilson up there that Joel did, which I would recommend everybody go and check out. Worth the subscription alone, which we have an offer at the moment, 6 months for £1, and any buddy who is subscribed, new and existing. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that existing Hearts Standard subscribers know. And to be clear, I'm talking about to our website and not to the YouTube channel. Anybody who is subscribed gets entered into a draw, and you can win 2 hospitality tickets for not tonight's match against St Mirren, but a game against St Mirren later on this month at Tynecastle. So please get on that if you haven't already. £1 for 6 months is a really good deal if you are unsure about whether our content is for you or not. But I've rambled enough about that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you all again tomorrow.